Khuli Chana is suing the SAPS for at least 2.7 million rand. His lawyers served Police Minister Nadeem Tetwa with an official notice of their intention to sue on Friday. The action comes, of course, after the rapper was shot at allegedly by police. The SAPS now has 30 days to respond. Here's Karyn Maughan with us in studio this afternoon. Hi there, Karyn. The last time we looked at this story, Khuli Chana was being investigated for attempted murder, I understand.
Well, we now have an extraordinary situation where the Ipid said it has investigated this case and has now recommended to the National Prosecuting Authority that the two police officers in question, who are both from Bedford View, actually be charged themselves with attempted murder. So we have a situation where those officers are appearing in court on February the 18th. Nonetheless, when we went back to the police, who were so adamant that they had their own footage which could clear Khuli Chana and indeed could incriminate Khuli Chana and clear these officers, they insist they still have that footage, but clearly the Ipid doesn't know about it, and they're continuing with this rhetoric that they were right and Khuli Chana is wrong. So in the light of that particular situation, he's now persisting with what I think will be quite an acrimonious legal battle.
Well, how has this incident affected his life and career?
Well, I think, the whole thing is just so bizarre, because when you look at the CCTV footage that is available, that's from the garage, you really can understand that this could have been mistaken identity. He was driving the same car as this kidnapping suspect. The CCTV footage reveals that the suspect was literally, arrested shortly after he left the garage. It was really a case where you could honestly say this was a mistaken identity situation. The police initially said that. And then when there were major questions and a bit of a backlash about what exactly had happened, they then come out with the story of this secret footage which no one has seen, including the spokesman who has himself defended the police, says he has actually not seen the footage. And you have this extraordinary situation which builds up. And I think the point to note here is that Khuli Chana's lawyers actually went to the SAPS. They at one stage were sending them 7 letters a day saying, meet with us, we want to discuss this, we want to get this finalized, we don't want a big acrimonious hoo-ha, let's sort this out. But the way the police handled it, which is unfortunately the way the police handle the vast majority of civil claims against them, which is probably why they've got 28 billion rands worth of civil claims against them, has created a situation where instead of just asking for the repair of his car and for medical costs, Khuli Chana is now suing for 2.75 million rand, which will ultimately be paid by the taxpayer if he gets it.
Well, do you think he then has a good chance of winning this case, given the evidence that we have in our possession right now?
Well, you would think so, because if the Independent Police Investigative Directorate, who was investigating the conduct of the officers, was unable to find this so-called exonerating CCTV footage, we have actually gone to Sunrail, we've gone to the businesses around there, and we've asked them, do you have CCTV footage of this incident? No one does. So unless there's some remarkable secret video that's lurking somewhere, I think the police are in a pretty bad position. But they keep digging their heels in, and even today I spoke to Neville Malila and I said, is there a situation where you may look at the comments and maybe retract the allegations that you made against the man? And they remain adamant, the investigation is ongoing, even though the NPA has found on the evidence provided by Ipid there is a case against the police.
They were also adamant that a number of witnesses could corroborate the police's version of events over Khuli Chana's.
Well, this is the strange thing, is that the so-called independent witnesses were in fact the people who were with the police as part of this kidnapping operation. And their own timelines, one of the so-called independent witnesses was shown by a fellow club DJ who arrived there to have actually arrived after him and couldn't possibly have witnessed this. So it's very sad, because in a situation like this, if a decisive leadership move had been made and people had consulted with each other, Khuli Chana could have been spared being called an alleged attempted murderer, and the police could have been spared massive embarrassment. And I think the public would have respected them more if indeed, as it seems at this stage, a mistake was made, they acknowledged that mistake, they apologized, and they attempted to rectify and meet the costs that existed at the stage. But that has not happened, and this looks set to become even more embarrassing for the South African Police Service.
Karyn.
You deserve to know more.
eNCA.com